I only ever focus on the comic. I have a lot of anxiety, and I've been depressed a lot at times, in my life. And I get very scared I'm going to let the fans down, the comic fans, and am I doing the right thing? But I always do I stick to my guns, and I do the thing. Like who wanted an 11-issue origin or a 12-issue origin? Like zero. Nobody wanted that. I wanted that. I was like, I know I can make it fun. Trust me, Who wanted Batman to have a brother? Nobody wanted him, But I was like, let me do it. Let me, who needs another secret society? Nobody. Because Grant Morrison did it great with the Black Glove and all that. But I'm like, I know I have my own story for it. Let me try it, And who wanted James Jr. back as a psychopath? Believe me, nobody wanted that. DC did not want that either at first. But I was like, let me try it, Because so my feeling is kind of like, I get very, very scared and feel pressure before I start an arc that I worry I think is going to be really fun, but that fans might not. But then I kind of get in my headspace and I just say, if they don't like it, then you'll leave, and that's okay. You got to do Batman for a while. And now I feel less pressure. Like, I feel less because I feel like I got to do the stuff that Zero Year for me was, Zero Year really was like, because I was rereading Year One, right? And I grew up in New York City, and Year One meant, and Dark Knight Returns, they meant everything to me because I was 10 and I read those books and I was like, Batman is real. Batman is telling me to be brave in my city and don't be afraid when, people are on the you don't be afraid to ride the subway. Don't be afraid to go to Central Park. Don't be afraid of Times Square with the graffiti because that's the way it looked back then. It looks just like Year One. Now it doesn't. Now it's like the M&M store and this Disney store and whatever. But back then, as a kid, it was rough. And Batman, to me, it was all my modern fears in that book. And I was like, if I do Zero Year, it's got to be personal about why Batman has mattered to me. And so there's a lot of stuff at the end about depression, anxiety, and stuff like that Bruce goes through as a kid. But it was also about showing my kids, my boys, when they grow up and they can read the story, how Batman overcomes superstorms and terrorism and post-apocalyptic fears of resources breaking down and blackouts and random gunmen like we have in school shootings in America. And all of those things that I am afraid of in modern times, if I could put those in a story in comic book language, like Riddler is a terrorist in that story. He takes over the city and he threatens to chemical gas it. But you don't think of him that way because he's the Riddler, but that's what it is. The Red Hood is a gunman. He is somebody who steps in and, does that because that's what the Red Hood gang is. It's random violence, you know what I mean? So at the end of the day, Zero Year for me was the thing that I was most scared of because it was the most personal, where it was like, this is the story that is for my children. It's an origin. I know it's not going to be as good as Year One. I am never going to be able to do that, but it's my absolute best I can do to give them a Batman that's about the things that they're afraid of, that I see in their faces that they're afraid of about the world today and why he matters. And so once I finished that with Endgame, I was like, I love it. Endgame is probably, it's one of my favorite things, but it's also like, this one is just, I'm just having fun now. I'm sort of like, it matters to me. It's about Bruce's fear of mortality. It's personal, but I feel less pressure because Zero Year was the thing that I was like, if I can pull this thing off that like nobody wants except me, I'm good. I'm good from here, and if I fail from here, it's okay. I'll be crazier and crazier on the book because I got to do the thing that meant the most to me. And Endgame is a thank you to fans. It's kind of like, let me take a bow and say thank you for letting me do Batman, and it was meant to be my last story and that. But if I'm going to stay, it's sort of like I'm not as afraid anymore because I feel like I got to do the things that I'm very, very proud of, that I got to do with Greg and FCO and Danny, and now I can sort of try things that are crazy and say, I love this story, I hope you do too. But if you don't, that's okay. I'm not as scared. I feel like I'm a little bit more brave now to be like, I did what I wanted to do, and let's just see how far we can go with Batman, all of us together, and make fun stories. And I promise you this one thing too, like, what's coming in June, the thing after Endgame, and Endgame too, I think is a different kind of Joker story. But after Endgame, the thing coming in June, it's never been tried in 75 years, I promise. It's not like Dick Grayson in the cowl. It's not going back to anything that you've seen. It's something you've never seen. And it might be terrible, but I think it's great. I think it's really fun. So, we'll see. Oh, well, what can I tell you without spoiling it? I would just say that Endgame is Endgame. Endgame, it says it's the last Batman and Joker story, and that's what it is. And then on the other side of it... No, look. I'll be honest with you, because I think people expected me to kill somebody in Death of the Family, and I'm not. I'm not a big murderer. I'm not like. I don't really like the idea of killing characters personally. It's not. It's not my thing. And whether the Joker dies or not, I won't say, because it's possible. You know, you gotta see. But it's not about like killing Alfred or killing Dick or killing. It's about killing everybody. Everybody, killing all of Batman and killing all of the Joker, killing everything. And then coming out the other side, you know? So it's not just killing one character. It's the end of all of Batman mythology is the way Joker's after it. Like in Death of the Family, if you saw a Bat Family member, he'd be like, oh, let me take you and tie you up, and because I'm trying to prove a point. In this one, if he saw a Batman family, he'd be like, done, done, done. He doesn't care. And so Endgame really is like, he's out to kill everybody in the whole city and be finished. And, you know, I don't want to say whether he succeeds. He's not going to literally physically kill everybody, because they're all DC properties. I couldn't kill everybody. But symbolically, metaphorically, and in some real ways, it will be like a burning of everything and a starting over in some ways. So I can't tell you. I don't want to spoil it. It really is fun. But as soon as it's over, you'll see. It's in March, you'll see. And then in April and May, you'll get hints of what's coming, and you'll see. We're trying some crazy stuff. You know, I'm really excited. Yeah, I mean, I thought of the story back when I was doing Death of the Family. I knew that it was going to end up being 2 parts, and that Death of the Family would be a comedy, and that this would be sort of a tragedy, and that the Joker would come back in this one and say, I gave you a chance, you know, Bruce Wayne, you wanted to be Batman, to be immortal, to be transcendent, to be a legend, you know, to escape the confines of your own mortality. But when I offered my hand, you threw me off a cliff. So now I'm here to just show you that I'm immortal, I'm forever, I've been here a long time, and you're no one. You're just a little boy crying for your parents, you're just Bruce Wayne, that's it. I don't care about you. So now I'm going to burn everything down, and we're going to start over with a new hero that's worthy of me. So in that way, this is really sort of, it's the final fight between them at least in my own personal mythology of Batman and Joker, you know. And so I did a lot of research on it. I mean, you know, there's a lot of bizarre coincidences where, for example, Gotham, you know, is for Gotham, it's a hearth for goats, a house for goats. And in Black Mirror, Joker says the bat infects the goat and makes the city. You know, the city is a goat. Tragedies were often performed for Dionysus, the god of madness, the god of the Bacchanal, and what was sacrificed for him was goats. Tragedy comes from the root of the word is, you know, goat song, goat skin, and so the goat Gotham is sacrificed for the Joker in the great Bacchanal of all time, with everybody crazy, everybody dancing, everybody mad, so that we can finally be done with it and move on. So it's really meant to be sort of the end game, like the very final Joker and Batman story. And at the end, the way they fight, it's spoiler, but the way they fight with Joker, you know, Joker cards throwing them and Joker and Batman hitting him, and it's like jaws hanging. They're like out to kill each other at the end. You know, it really is the last fight I'll ever write between the two of them. So. Well, that you're going to have to wait and see. I mean, what I love about the Joker is you never know what's true and what's not true. And Batman is convinced, Bruce is convinced that that is not true. And you can either side with the Joker or you can side with Batman. And, you know, as it goes forward, it will be clearer if it's true or not, you know. And ultimately, I think, you know, Joker is a liar. He's always a liar. He's a trickster. But that said, I think there's a kernel of truth in what he's saying, and that not so much about him being immortal, but more about Batman's own desire to overcome his mortality, his body, and become something forever. And there's a fear in there that's deeply upset by Joker saying, well, I'm forever and you're not. You could have taken my blood, my spinal fluid, and you could have been forever. I would have given you that, but you rejected me, so now we're done. He might just be the Joker. He might just be a man who's claiming all of this and lying. That's always there. It's always possible. And, you know, I mean, I don't want to spoil it, but that's what Batman believes, and Batman might be right. It might just be a joke. It might be a trick that the Joker is trying to play. he is taking something. There's something in his blood that's helping him heal from stuff, from wounds and from trauma. But it might be something he's taking and not something he found hundreds of years ago. So you'll have to wait and see. You know, I believe me, like, nobody is out to change the status quo of the Joker or Batman in a way that's going to upset fans. That's never my goal. And I feel like, I hope that I've been pretty sensitive to trying to change things in ways that made sense for story but didn't overreach. And the last thing I would do is say, guess what? Joker is a god. Joker is immortal. You know, and upset fans for the sake of upsetting fans. But the reason I think fans are upset is because they side with Batman, as do I, saying that would be crazy, that would be impossible, that would be terrifying. And that's why the Joker is doing it, is to say, look what I am. And whether or not he is that thing is something that, you know, you'll have to wait and see. But I would just say, if you trust what the Joker says, you don't know the Joker very well, you know. Look, honestly, you want to know the truth? Endgame was going to be my last Batman story. It was going to be the last one I ever did, and then I was going to leave the book afterwards. And Greg Capullo wanted to stay through 50, and I thought, okay, well, you know, and we're a team. We'll always be a team. I'm never going to do Batman without him. I'm going to do a Batman story with Sean Murphy on the side, but I mean, I'm never going to do Batman the book without Greg, and he won't do Batman without me. It's in our contracts. We're locked together as friends. So when he said he wanted to stay, I thought, okay, well, do I have a story that is as big as Endgame? And then I realized if Endgame, what happens at the end of Endgame really, you know, I can't give it away, but it really changes the status quo of Bruce and the Joker. And it changes Gotham. And when we come back in June, I was like, if we do this and we stay through 50, I told Greg, I was like, we're going to have to try something really crazy, like the Joker doesn't become Batman or anything like Superior Spider-Man or whatever. It's something crazy that's like the nuttiest thing we've ever tried. And I told Greg my idea, and he was like, all right, you know what? Let's do it. And I was like, if we stay, we have to do it. You know, otherwise I feel like it's not worth it to stay past a story like Endgame, which has everything in it, you know? All the villains are coming in Endgame. You know, Ivy and Bane, and everybody's in it. And the heroes are in it, like everybody. So if you're going to stay past that, it's not worth it to sort of shrink and do small stuff. You got to have a way of making it, I feel, as personal and crazy as that. So I had a way of doing it that would be crazier, and I promise. I know I say a lot of the time, oh, this is the craziest, but this thing coming in June after Endgame is definitely the craziest thing we've tried. And I told Greg, and he was like, let's do it. And so what it boiled down to was, let's try. Let's stay through 50. See how you guys like us. If fans out there, if you guys decide we've had enough of Snyder and Capullo, I promise I will be the first one to say thank you. I didn't think I'd ever get to be on Batman this long. I appreciate it. I will go do something else. If you guys want us to stay past 50 and you like the story, then we'll consider it. But I really, this was going to be where I left. So the Owls coming back was really a big part of saying goodbye to everything that we had done and saying, you know, we're going to leave that behind. And the last thing I would say about it is that Endgame is a story that says goodbye to the rogues, and to the villains, and to Owls, and to Joker, and to, like, once we're past it, we're not coming back to it. Meaning, I'm not going to use the big A-list villains. I'm not going to use Joker. I have an idea for a new villain, new status quo, and we're going to try that. And if you guys like it, then maybe at the end of that we'll come back to some of the A-list villains and whatever. But it really is a goodbye to, it's a goodbye to the mythos as it exists right now, and the mythos we've been playing with. Sorry to talk forever. I'm sorry. It's like a total corn maze. I'm like lost in my head talking, but I apologize. So one more after Endgame, and then. But I promise, if you guys like this, the story might be the worst thing we've ever done, or it might be the best. I don't know. It's like it's either the dumbest idea I ever had. Or it's the best idea, the one after Endgame. And if you guys love it and you want us to stay, then we'll stay. If you guys don't like it and you're like, I've had it with these idiots, then we'll leave. So I was ready to leave after Court of Owls, honestly. I was ready to be like, if you guys didn't like Court of Owls and you wanted somebody else on the book, I'm always okay saying, I got to write Batman. You know, I got to write my dream character. I'll never love another superhero as much as I love Batman. I love him more than any other character. And, you know, you guys out there, you fans, like, let me do that. And so at any point, if you don't want me on the book anymore, I am okay leaving, because I already did my dream job. But I promise you this, like, I promise from the bottom of my heart, if you keep me on the book this way, I'm never going to not try and do a story that tops the story I did before. That's just, I promise, like, that's it. You know, I know some people once in a while, they'll be like, why don't you do small mysteries, like little ones? And I want to, and I have 5 in mind called Batman Cold Cases, and it's like small stories. And I'm like, I should do that. And at DC, Dan DiDio and Jim Lee, they tease me about it, because they're like, oh, ever since you did Court of Owls, you've been saying you're going to do those small stories. And every time I don't. I'm like, I think of another one. I'm like, and I've even been in interviews and said to people, I've been like, after this, we're doing small stories. We're going to do some mysteries. But then I think of something, and I'm like, you know what? It's Batman. You got to swing for the fence. You got to do your biggest story that's personal to you, that you love. Or move over and let somebody else out there that has their biggest Batman story, their best story in mind, write it. So that's the way I kind of operate on the book, is like, you might hate what I'm doing, but I promise you, I am swinging for the fence each time, and I'm trying my best. I am trying my best, and if I fail, at least I failed trying something crazy, because that's like Grant Morrison to me, and Frank Miller, and the guys, Denny O'Neil, the guys that I look up to, Paul Dini the most. They tried something crazy, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but at least they got on there and said, it's Batman, you bring your A game. You try your hardest, it's Batman. And that's, to me, is, so Endgame is here, and the next thing is here, and then try and keep going higher, you know? And anyway. Yeah, I want to do Wonder Woman. Yeah, sorry, I don't know if I should have said, but yeah, I have a Wonder Woman pitch that I really like. It's like, if Batman handles all of the earthly threats and Superman handles all the cosmic threats, then Wonder Woman really handles all the mythological and magical threats. And I have an idea for her with a base in Washington and magical weapons, kind of like a Hellboy meets Captain America sort of Wonder Woman. I really want to do it badly, but I don't have the bandwidth. I just don't have the time right now. So maybe someday. And I want to do Captain America. I have a Captain America in the Third World War idea, and Spider-Man. Yeah, there's a lot. You know, I love superheroes. I don't know. I mean, I'll never ever ever just do superheroes again. I always want to have creator-owned. Creator-owned is essential to me. I've realized, like, if I do superheroes and don't do creator-owned, I get very depressed, because you have nowhere to go that's just yours. That's your place to experiment and push and try and get weirder and better. And so creator-owned is essential to me, but I do still love superheroes as well. I like going back and forth. I like the balance. For me, in my mind, it just works for me, you know. The second cycle is 6 issues, and it's a space race. It basically takes place in 1965. I'm going to totally spoil it. And I love it. It's my favorite arc so far, where basically Skinner and Calvin and Pearl go to a base, a secret VMS base that's in Florida that used to belong to the Ringling Brothers, actually, the circus. And it's a place where they have all the information on the Beast, the very first monster of all time, the Devil. And they get there, and Felicia is there with the remaining members of the VMS. A mummy, a Medusa, like, around her. And she's like, why are you here? And they tell her, I'm totally spoiling it. Why are you here? They tell her, and she explains to them they're about to go on a terrible mission. The Russians in the 1960s know that the Devil, the Beast, the first monster, is in the ground in Nevada. And if that monster comes out of the ground, they will nuke us. They will start a nuclear war, because they've fought that thing in the 1300s. And so what we need to do is break into this base in Nevada and make sure that that thing doesn't happen. And meanwhile, the Russians have a satellite watching that area in space. And I did a lot of research about the technology of the time in space. And so half the team has to go to Nevada and stop the Beast from coming up out of the ground. And the other half has to go to space and stop the satellite from taking pictures. So it is the craziest arc we've ever done, easily. It's the craziest. I was always like, I'll never do vampires in space. But then I was like, you know what? Maybe we'll do it. And Raphael was like, we got to do it. So, all right. So, but I always meant space in the future. I'll never do vampires in space like 2020, whatever. But 1965, it's pretty cool, vampires in the Apollo mission, the Gemini mission. So that's the arc. It's called Dark Moon. It starts next month. It literally is like my favorite arc. It's got vampirized space chimpanzees, vampires in space, mummies in space, Area 51. It's American Vampire. It's like, you know, very, very crazy. So it really does. It starts next month, and we're gonna just go till the end. So, yeah, I'm very sorry. What happened was, you want the truth. Issue 5, if you read it, is prose. It's writing. I thought that was going to be very fast. I was like, I used to write prose. That's not going to be no problem. I started writing it, and it took me forever. It took me 2 months, and I wrote every day, like typing. And I was like, oh my God, writing prose is hard. I forgot it's hard, and it slowed the whole series down. And it was my fault. It was totally my fault. I just didn't realize how long it would take to do a prose issue. So DC said, You're already late. Wait till the next trade comes out, trade whatever it is, volume 7, and then once that's released, we'll start the series up again. And don't worry about it. So, volume 7 just came out. Next month we start. Issue 6 is all done. It's at the printer. Issue 7 all done. Raphael has it. I'm writing issue 8. So we're back. It's just it was my fault. I just underestimated how long it would take me to write a prose story, and it took forever. So it's my bad. I'm sorry. The series will end in the present. It's coming to the, I know the end. The big battle takes place in the 1970s, and then it will show you the present. We'll come to the present. You'll see the characters that survive, whoever they are, in the present, and where the series might go from there in the future. And it's something I'd always love to come back to. You know, I'm very hard to imagine closing the book on it, because it's very personal to me. But it will probably go through the 70s, and then it will show you this big battle, and then it will go to the present to show you who survived. It's about, I would say it's 2/3 over. It's at least another 2 years. It will probably take us, because this arc is the space race. The next arc, I don't want to say what it is, but the next arc, they have to gather forces. That's a big one. The next arc is getting ready for the battle, and the next arc is the battle. And in between, you learn the history of the Great Trader and all of that stuff in medieval times and ancient times. And so it's really probably about another 25 to 30 issues, so 2 years plus. So I'd say it's a little more than half over, but we know where we're headed, you know, and it'll be over. Travis, everybody comes back. Everybody. I'm very excited about it. It's I hate to say like one thing is my favorite thing kind of to work on, because Witches to me is like deeply personal, and I love that book. And Batman to me is the most fun I've ever had, you know. But American Vampire, if I had to like send one thing into space that was like, this represents me, it has everything I love, you know, Americana, horror, drama, rock and roll, you know, jazz, doo-wop, you know, everything that I love personally, that barnstormers and planes and race cars, and, you know, all of it's really everything I love in that series. So, you know, it means a lot to me. And Vertigo has been very sweet to us, me and Raphael, about allowing us to decide when we're going to end it, and giving us more control over the rights and everything like that. So it's been great. It's still at Vertigo, it's still with Warner Brothers right now. So if Warner Brothers decides to either adapt it themselves or sell it to another network, the way they did with iZombie, you know, or Scalped, or some of those series and stuff, then they can do that. So they own it until we're done, and then they have a time period after we're done to option it, and then it comes back to us. So
Would you like it?
What?
Would you like to see your American Vampire?
Oh, sure. Yeah, sure. I mean, I think my thing is I just don't have any, like, even Witches. We talked to the screenwriter who's doing Witches, and I get really scared because I'm like, he's like, do you want me to do this or this? He's a Spanish screenwriter. He's really cool. I like him a lot. And I'm like, whatever you want to do, it's yours. You know, it's yours now. And he's like, no, what did you intend? And I'm like, well, I intended this. And my feeling is sort of like with American Vampire or Witches or anything, I get to do it the way I want on the page. It is exactly what I want it to be as it comes out as a book. So once they have it, make it what you think is going to be best, and make it something special to you. And I don't need to be a part of that, you know. But they want us to be a part with Witches, which is a lot of fun, you know. So they've been we've been talking to him, and he had some ideas I thought were so good I stole them and then put them in the series. I was like, that's in the comic book, but it wasn't. But I told him afterwards, I was like, actually, I'm going to use that, you know. And then some things he took from us, and so I would love to see it, sure, you know, but mostly just to see it imagined by somebody else, you know. There's a thrill in seeing, like when fans come dressed up as your characters, but dress up in their own versions. It's like when your thing has life beyond you writing it, it's very special. So the idea of somebody taking it and making it something that's their thing, that's exciting to me. Not me writing it or me. I'm not very interested in that stuff. I love comics. I love being in comics. I'm not a screenwriter or whatever, you know. So hopefully they'll do it and do something special. If it was like a musical, I don't even care. Just do something great that you want to do with it. You know, make it your... Yeah, make it... Well, it would be fun. As long as I get to play like a dead body in it. Jock and I, when we sold Witches, I made this joke to the movie people when we were about to sell it. I was like, we've one demand, that we get to play bumbling cops, you know, like stupid cops that are like, whoa, my gun, you know, like that. And they were like, are you serious? You want to play? I was like, no, I was just kidding. But then I realized, I was like, wait, we could actually have done that. We could actually play cops. Then I'm sort of like, now I'm sort of like, want to go back to it and be like, yes, let's, you know, and be like, you know, Officer Jock, what are these witches? You know what I mean? Like, so maybe we will. I don't know.
Do it.
I hope so. I hope so. You know, 'cause look, the thing is, it's fun, man. You know, like, we have the best job in the world. I mean, you guys get to interview comic writers. I get to write comics, you know? If there's not an element of fun to it and silliness and excitement that way, then you don't do it, you know? Because it's, you get to be a kid at heart. You know, I get to look at my kids, my boys, I have 7 and 3-year-old, and be like, guess what? I'm writing Batman fighting the Joker. You know what I mean? And they're like, that's not a real job. And I'm like, oh, yes, it is. Paying for your school, it's a real job. But like, you know, it's a fun job. It's the best job, and you guys let us do it, fans. And there should be an element of fun and joy to it, you know. So that's the way I feel about all the TV stuff too. Is like, let it be what it's going to be, and just enjoy writing the comics, you know.